Good evening and welcome back to Around the Grounds here at Finalwhistle.ie. Just one game down for decision tonight in the SSE Airtricity First Division, where the final whistle has just gone down in Limerick, where Treaty United were taking on Longford, a game that was refixed after being postponed at the dying seconds earlier on in the season. Reporting on tonight's game from the Markets Field is Tom Clancy.
Yeah, good evening, Diarmuid. A disappointing evening here on Shannon side because it has finished Treaty United nil, Longford Town FC nil. It was a really underwhelming game from both sides, and really both sides cancelling each other out for long periods. Both sides, of course, coming into the game in the playoff picture. Longford were fourth after this game, and they remain 7 points clear of Treaty, who remain in fifth. A really disappointing showing though in front of goal from both sides, with both goalkeepers Jack Brady and Luke Dennison really underworked from an attacking point of view. There was chances though in the first half, however, for Matthew O'Brien, who had a couple of efforts, one which was expertly saved by Brady against his former club. He pushing the ball around the post for a corner from close range with his right hand. A good piece of play by O'Brien, and O'Brien was involved again a couple of minutes later when he had a couple of chances, but sending his second effort sailing over the crossbar when he ought to have done better. Limerick, or Treaty I should say, went close through another former Longford Town man, that of course Joe Gorman. He headed a expertly taken free kick goalwards, but Luke Dennison gathered very, very comfortably, and that is as good as it got in the opening half for the host. The second half, well, that started with a bang as Shane Elworthy weaved his way through the Treaty defence and cut onto his unfavoured left foot and sent a shot from about 17 yards, smashing off the crossbar, and before it flew away to safety. And the Treaty's goal remained intact. There was chances late on as the Treaty introduced substitute Joel Coustrain, a man who has had more than enough injury problems in his career, but he came on and added a bit of something for Treaty, sending an effort with his first touch just narrowly wide of the Longford Town goal. But that's really as close as Treaty got until Mark Ludden cut in off the left flank, the Treaty United captain on the evening, of course, in the absence of Jack Lynch. Ludden cut in, sent an effort with his right foot that was well saved by Luke Dennison, and probably the only save that Dennison had to make on this evening in Shannon side. And I suppose a disappointing fact here this evening was the crowd here at the Markets Field. You mentioned there, Dermot, that this game was rescheduled earlier in the season. Treaty expected a big home support that evening. Only a couple of hundred here tonight, maybe 300-400 at max, and perhaps only 10 or 12 of those making the trip down from Longford. Of course, many would have made the trip earlier in the season, and at the very last minute, more or less around 7 p.m., about 45 minutes for that kick-off that evening, the game postponed. But in fairness, the Marketsfield surface has come on a very, very long way in this short space of time, and is much more conducive to good football. But unfortunately, we didn't get an awful lot of that in the attacking third tonight, and it is finished here at the Marketsfield. Treaty United nil, Longford Town nil.
Perfect, Tom. Thank you, as always, for that report coming from Shannon's side. This evening, you could call it a River Shannon derby, of course, between the two teams if you wanted to. Now, we'll just take a look at the league table, of course, just the one game down for decision tonight. We'll just take a look at what way the table stands at the moment. It's just, as Tom said, it did finish 0-0 between the two teams. Longford, of course, in fourth place with 24 points, while Treaty United remain in fifth on 17 points. Just a little bit of a gap coming between them and Wexford for the final promotion spot. Looking back and moving to the statistics as well, from the league, we'll look at the top goal scorers, where it remains Phoenix Patterson leading the line with 9 goals for the season, followed closely by Stephen Walsh with 8, while Bennett O'Brien, Whitmarsh and Lewis Britton are on 7 goals respectively. And Enda Curran, the only man from the game tonight that had contributed, should I say, to a top goal scoring tie with 6 so far this season, but he couldn't find the net this evening. And we'll look at the goalkeeping statistics as well. Of course, the goalkeepers having a great season, but it's David Harrington of Cork City and Conor Kearns of Galway that are leading there with 7 and 6 respectively. Luke Dennison, of course, and Jack Brady in action tonight, both keeping clean sheets respectively for this season. Now we'll look at the fixture list coming up as well. We have action coming to you this Thursday and Friday as well. All games, of course, kicking off at 7:45 unless stated otherwise. UCD meeting Shamrock Rovers on Thursday evening, while on Friday, Bohemians take on Sligo Rovers. Derry City meet Dundalk. Drogheda take on Finn Harp, St. Patrick's Athletic take on Shelbourne as well. And in the first division, definitely things heating up as well for promotion down there, with Cork City taking on Wexford and Galway taking on Athlone, the two league leaders looking for big 3 points in those respective games, while Treaty United take on Cove Ramblers in a Munster derby as well on the Markets Field on Friday evening. So that concludes obviously our action, but of course Women's National League games will come as well on Saturday. Shelbourne and DLR Waves are in action at 2 p.m, as are Sligo Rovers and Cork City. Wexford Youths take on Peamount, while Galway Women's FC take on Bohemians, and Athlone Town take on Treaty United at 6 p.m. on Saturday. We, of course, will be back with Around the Grounds on Saturday as well. But before that, of course, we'll be back on Thursday and Friday, respectively. But we will also have live podcasts coming on Wednesday evening. Kieran Callan will be back with the League of Ireland podcast at 7 p.m, while my producer, Breffney Early, will be back with the Women's National League podcast later on that evening at around 9 o'clock as well. But just the one game, as I said, that report will be live on the Finalwhistle.ie website tonight, as of course, with all the statistics. And we have had action, of course, throughout the weekend in both the Women's National League, the Men's Premier Division, First Division, the Intermediate FAI Cup, and of course GAA action as well. Plenty more of that to come next week as well. We hope you've enjoyed this evening's program. Best of luck with the rest of the week. Hopefully your team will be in action this weekend and you will have a lovely game to go to. But until then, have a lovely rest of your week, and goodbye.